Hey all, this is rewardadrawer, and with me I have Jackie, aka Aeon Bridge, and Aren, aka Aren Eternal, and we're going to be talking about music for a little bit. Both of you, why don't you introduce yourselves? Tell us who you are.
You
You
want to
can
go
go
first,
first,
Jake?
Jackie. Yeah, you can go
God dang
first.
it. Uh, okay. Um, hey everybody. First of all, I want to thank Rad for having me on. Me and my lovely fiance. Uh, my name is Jackie Reggs, better known as the NB behind the instrumental shred studio project Aeon Bridge. Yeah, that's a mouthful to say, and I'm surprised I said it right. For my music, I take inspiration from a lot of different artists and genres and really use Aeon Bridge as a bouncing board to do whatever I'm feeling since it's a personal project at its core. I've done death metal, thrash, speed, neoclassical, 80s inspired shrapnel shred, entire albums of progressive metal, acoustic music, all kinds of in between stuff. And I've even experimented with synthwave and electronic elements, and I'm hoping that I get to talk about some of that stuff.
Absolutely. And you, Aren?
Wow, I feel like intimidated that I have to follow that up now. Hi, I'm Aaron. You might know me from my Twitch channel, Aaron Eternal, where I stream music games mostly, and I produce music under the label Æternity. And my inspiration and range varies from chiptune covers of power metal to chiptune covers of shred metal.
I
Hell
think you're
yeah.
selling yourself a little short. You've definitely started to move beyond chiptune, and it's really cool to see.
When and how did the both of you first get into music?
Am
Do you
I just
mean
going to go
like,
first on all of these?
yeah, I just want to clarify. Do you mean like get into music as in like being interested in music, or do you mean like get into making music?
The former.
Okay.
um, so I grew up around music. My dad is both a musician and a collector. Uh, so there was just always music in the house growing up, and he would have friends over to jam a lot. And at a really young age, my brother got into drums. So my dad, who's a guitarist, and my brother would jam a lot. I didn't get into playing guitar until significantly later, but I started developing like my music taste probably around 14, like right at the beginning of high school, when I discovered that you could re-download anything you had bought on the iTunes store. And since at the time I was still sharing an account with my parents, I got to see all the stuff that my dad had bought. And one album in particular really stood out, which was Blood of the Nations by Accept, which the album cover is like this really striking red, and then it's a peace. It's a hand holding up like the peace symbol, but it's soaked in blood. And I was like, that looks
Nice.
edgy, and I'm 14. Let's listen to that. And the rest is history.
Nice. And you, Aaron?
My journey into music is a little bit weird and complicated because for a long time I didn't really actively listen to music. Like there was music on around the house. Like my parents listened to classic rock stations and whatnot, and I grew up around a lot of that. But for a very long time, until probably a few years before high school, I never really actively listened to music. Like I never sought it out. It was just something that like if it was on in the background, cool. But at the same time, my a lot of my the beginnings of my like gaming interests, a hobby, started out with music driven games like Busta Groove 2 for the PS1. Absolute banger of a game. Probably has not aged very well at all. And then the thing that really got me into rhythm gaming, Frequency for the PS2, the precursor by Harmonix before they got their start with Guitar Hero 1. And I think that indirectly got me really into electronic music, but I didn't really that didn't really refine itself as my music taste until I think 1st or 2nd year of high school, when my mom and I both together discovered dubstep. I was just kind of browsing YouTube one day, and when my mom and I used to watch random stuff on YouTube together all the time, and we found this video that was a dubstep remix of Pumped Up Kicks, and this guy was like dancing along to it, and I was like, "Yo, this is sick. What the hell?" And my taste for EDM has only grown stronger ever since.
Cool, cool. Um, we'll start with Aaron first on this one. Uh,
Uh
who inspired you to become a musician?
oh. It's hmm. I mean, all of the music I listen to kind of inspired me into it, but the biggest inspiration into actually making the music that I make now, 100% is Jackie. She was there with me, and every time I would, like, try and experiment with stuff, I would always send it to her, and she would always encourage me to keep playing around with things and, like, keep learning, and, and yeah, it was like, the very first thing I ever produced properly, under Æternity was a cover of one of her tracks because she gave me the MIDI for it, so that all I had to do was plug it into my DAW and, work with the instrumentation without having to worry about writing the music, and, that gave me the confidence to start actually working on more covers and doing my own thing.
That's really sweet. So it's kind of more like peer inspiration.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
People close to you moving you forward instead of like idols or anything like that.
Yeah, like there's some people who inspire me to keep going. Like I wish I could make music like people like Teminite, but I'm just not quite there. So I'm just sticking to just chiptune stuff, and the artists that I cover are usually what inspire me is to make my next track. It's like, yo, I want to cover X song or Y artist, and that's the main thing to keep going.
Nice. Okay, great. And you, Jackie?
Uh, so more than anyone else, my dad definitely inspired me to become a musician. He's a guitar teacher on occasion, and he's currently working towards a music degree at Berkeley as well. I'm simultaneously really inspired and proud of him, but he's been playing guitar since he was 16, so closing in on 40 years at this point, and he's still getting better like every time I get to hear his playing. I'm very lucky that he's been so present in my life and been so willing to share his talents with me, and I gun for literally any opportunity to get him on my music. If you ever listen to this, Dad, love you. Uh, but outside of my dad, if I could like list artists that inspired me forever, but only picking three, I would go with Dream Theater, Joe Stump, and Megadeth.
Nice. Really cool that you have like the family history to lean on. Like it's not necessarily like a family tradition or something like that, but something that growing up around probably helped you out with. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't I don't know if I can call it a tradition yet because my dad, as far as I know, is like the first musician in the family, but if I ever have kids, I will definitely pass the torch on.
Hell yeah.
I just want to chip in and say her dad is extremely cool. I got to witness him record a solo once for some of Jackie's songs. That dude is badass. Like I was just blown away by it.
Nice, nice.
And like me, he's very hypercritical and he always needs other people to tell him when something is good. It doesn't go away with age.
No, it doesn't. So, what one song, either your own or someone else's, is most important to you? We'll start with Jackie this time.
Um so even knowing the interview questions ahead of time, I'm not really happy or confident with like the answer that I have for this question because it's just there's so much music. Like I could pick 100 songs that could probably qualify for this. But uh, the first one that comes to mind, because it's been around for me the longest, is Octavarium by Dream Theater. Uh, it's a song that I can always come back to and find new meaning in, which is something really special and that I don't get from music very often, especially as someone who has a very hard time paying attention to lyrics. I tend to focus on the instrumentation in the background. So to always be able to extract new lessons from the same piece of media is something I don't experience very often in my life.
Absolutely, and Octavarium's a fantastic composition as well.
Mhm. It's almost cheating because it's like 26 minutes long.
Yeah, it's 24 exactly.
Okay.
I know because I keep on screwing this up and thinking it's 28, and then I get corrected. Yeah, and I think it's probably one of Jordan Rudess's best works as well. The
Oh,
intro solo.
yeah. That intro keyboard solo, or it's not a keyboard, it's a
It's
continuum.
yeah, continuum, which is
Yep.
like my dream instrument right there. If I could have a continuum and be irrelevant in music, but get to noodle with a continuum for a while, then like I don't care. That's all I want.
I mean, what can you ask for? Like, what more can you ask for than a squishy keyboard?
Love it, love it, and also just the ability to just pitch bend freely.
Mm-hmm. Which is the one thing that EAT instruments are typically missing.
Yeah. Aaron, how about you? What one song like is the most personally important to you?
All right, this is gonna come off extremely corny and like, oh, of course she's gonna pick that song. But over the past few years or so, I'm gonna go off on a little bit of tangent first. Actually, I think it's important to note that it's hard to pick one song that's most important to me because a lot of the music I listen to very heavily links itself to extremely vivid memories. So there are plenty of songs in my library where I can listen to it and be perfectly shot back to a time in my past or a specific train of thought or something. A lot of my music is very sentimental, but to bring it back to where I was going with the very corny thing, over the past 2 years, uh, the most important song that's been in my life has been Jackie's own song named Aeon Eternal, Love Song for the Anxious. And
Aww.
I think the reason behind that is fairly self-explanatory. It's a song Jackie wrote specifically for me, and it kind of kicked off the start of our relationship.
Oh, that's how it
That's
all started,
Or at
huh?
least, yeah, well, I wouldn't say the song is how it started, but it's like it symbolizes us being a thing very well.
yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. And literally the name of that song was the name people used as our ship name at the time. It's so corny in
Aww.
retrospect, but it works very well now.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's touching.
If I had to pick a secondary song, it would be Passion Flower by John Gom because that is Jackie's and mine's song.
Yeah.
That is a song that I slow danced with her too before proposing back to her.
Mhm.
Aw. You guys, you're gonna make me like cry in an interview.
Gay overload.
Okay, overload.
That's very gay overload. Um. All right. Well, this is probably a less happy tone that we're going to be transitioning to. Is going to be a little bit of emotional whiplash here. If it weren't for music, what do you think you'd be doing right now? We'll start with Aaron.
Um, in terms of like producing it like as a creative outlet for me, I don't think I would be a whole lot different because like the music production aspect is a very secondary hobby of mine. A lot of my effort goes into streaming and, creating content for rhythm games and whatnot. Uh, Making music is definitely just a fun side project for me and not really something I focus on a lot. So it wouldn't really change a whole lot for me. If I had to guess, as a replacement, as a creative outlet for that, I would probably be more into some form of storytelling or image manipulation. That used to be a big hobby of mine a number of years ago.
Okay.
And if it come in terms of if it weren't for music like existing in general, oh boy, life would be a lot less, a lot less, just a lot less.
A lot less. That's very succinct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jackie?
Honestly, and I hate to bring the mood down for a second, but honestly, there's a good chance I'd probably be dead. Prior to music, I had no creative outlet at all. I was a very angry and cynical person and constantly falling into bouts of depression with no real easy way to claw myself out of them. When music composition became a part of my life, I finally had a way to channel all of those negative emotions I was feeling into something more productive than dents in my wall or screams in my pillow. Once I was able to channel negative emotions properly, that allowed me to properly harness my positive emotions in order to immortalize them and amplify them through my music. And that's a really cool thing that I've been able to do over the past 4 years. I can listen to songs I wrote when I was angry and suicidal and reflect on how I've grown and moved past the way that I was feeling at the time. And conversely, I can listen to happy songs I've written like Aeon, Eternal, guitarist, Ray, and revisit the way I felt when I wrote them. And it's my own little time capsule that I'm fortunate enough to be able to share with my own small corner of the internet.
That's very touching. Thank you. Sorry, just a little interjection. It appears to be raining quite heavily now, which sets the mood for that question. Well, unfortunately, will be a little bit of audio distraction for the rest of the interview. Sorry about that. I don't control the weather as much as I'd like to. We'll get more into the practical side of things. So just a refresher for people who are listening. This interview is... we're interviewing musicians as part of a charity event called Notes for Notes for Notes. It's for the organization Notes for Notes, which provides access to studio quality equipment and instruments and mentorship for children in underserviced areas where music education is not really around as much. So I want to get to the practical side of music production a little bit. How has access to studio equipment, or lack thereof, affected your music production? We'll start with Jackie this time.
Okay. So when I was at music school for a couple semesters, I learned a lot, and I was really inspired to do a myriad of different things that I wouldn't have done had I not had access to equipment. Holding a $5,000 microphone in your hand really want to, if that makes any sense. But the other end of the question, on my own, I have truly, I just have a couple guitars, an audio, and a computer. But despite those limits, I would consider to be some pretty kick-ass music, and I'm happy with it at times at least. But I think giving kids the opportunity to have a really quality younger age can impact the way they view music and open the avenues for both enjoyment of it.
Great. Thank you. Aren, when you're ready, I realize you're just swapping server really quick. How has, just a refresher for the question, how has access to studio equipment or lack thereof affected your music production?
sorry, you cut out there a little bit. I need you to repeat that, please.
Sure. How has access to studio equipment or lack thereof affected your music production?
Well, I've never really actually had any access to studio equipment. Uh, the only really quote studio thing I've got is a totally illegitimate copy of Ableton. But uh, it's been an interesting experience. I think uh, not being in an environment where there's a lot of really expensive looking things and a lot of knobs and dials to turn that I have no idea what they're doing is actually helpful for me because I had wanted to start attempting to make music for a long time, and especially before I got into making chiptune stuff with Æternity, when I had Ableton and was just messing around with it, I was trying to do a lot of things and I was never really quite satisfied with that at all. And I found once things got majorly simplified, for someone in a background with basically no prior like musical knowledge, being much more simplified down to an NES synthesizer and a couple of effects of chains, chains of effects, helped me a lot with being able to get that creativity out for sure.
Okay. Um, Moving on to mentorship. What's one thing that you learned about recording music that you wish someone had taught you? We'll start with Aren this time.
Um, wish someone taught me how to mix things. I still have no idea how to do that most of the time. I'm just like, yeah, this sounds okay. It's good enough, right? Um, and aside from that, less so about recording and like, especially my case where I'm not really ever recording anything. Everything's, you know, pre-composed. I would just one thing I would have liked to learn more about is actually just how to go about writing things because I find, at least with my project personally, I'm kind of stuck in the situation of covering songs that I like as a form of practicing like my musical ear and working with instrumentation in Ableton because pretty much every time I get down to trying to write something original from scratch, I just end up scrapping it because nothing I'm really doing really satisfies me. I just never really have any idea how to connect different ideas that I have.
Right. I mean, as somebody who mostly composed my own music when I was performing, I know that like you can get into like, especially if you have like a really good idea, like at the nexus, just it's something that you've conceived of, and it just you want it to grow and become something great, and then you just like hit dead ends everywhere you go, and it just can really suck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the biggest roadblock for me for a long time was always attempting to create something of my own and always hitting that roadblock. So between finding the style that I'm in now and learning to just make covers instead as a way to practice my capabilities with my DAW, definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely great. Um, Jackie, what about you? What's something you wish or that you learned through doing that you wish had been taught to you beforehand?
I think the biggest thing is you only have to learn the rules so you know how to break them. And this applies for music theory too. But
Oh,
get a
absolutely.
good grip on the very basics of recording and production within the genre or genres that you're trying to work in, and then find your own style by changing as much as you need to. I am hypercritical of my own production, but I have plenty of people tell me how good my music sounds and how much they love it. You will always be your own harshest critic, but at the end of the day, if you can make a product that you're happy of and other people can reinforce that for you, then who cares if it sounds like other music in the genre, as long as you have an audience.
Absolutely. And yeah, the you only need to learn some of rules so you know how to break it. I that absolutely resonates with me. I know that I'm someone who tends to adhere a little bit too rigidly, probably to form, to the structure of things, but it's a good way to be able to express yourself, to like know when you need to just sort of like make something sound dissonant, for example. Like that can be a useful tool in music theory that you wouldn't. It's not. It's like a defiance of the normal structures, you know.
For sure. Just as a quick example within my own music, I have a song called "In Theory," which a lot of I don't want to make it sound like I have a lot of fans because I don't, but anyone that's listened to my music since the very beginning will list this one as like being in like some of the best songs I've ever written. And in the main riff of that song, I intentionally use both the major ninth and minor ninth uh, interchangeably, like within the same measure, even, and it creates a very interesting feel. And I've tried to like do new versions of the song, choosing one or the other, and it just never sounds right. So just who cares if the notes are out of key as long as it sounds cool.
Yeah, exactly. This next one we're gonna lead with Jackie, especially because I know that you do a lot of genre bending stuff, and you sort of reach out and collaborate with a lot of people. How has collaborating with other musicians affected your relationships with other people, like the musicians that you've worked with? Has it strengthened or weakened them?
Working on music with others has strengthened friendships and romantic relationships alike for the most part. I work on music with Aren and our girlfriend Winter a lot, and I hope that I get to do that for the rest of my life. I'd probably cram a feature onto every song I did, given the opportunity. It's just a really fun way to get a different perspective on your own work or get the opportunity to work on something you didn't write yourself. I think the one thing I'd add to this as a negative is sometimes you work with people who you are really close friends with at the time, and if there's a falling out or whatever, then you have to live with that song existing for the rest of your life with someone on it that you don't like.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, understandable, but unfortunate. What about you, Aaron?
I mean, I think more of my songs have collaborations on them than not. Most of them with Jackie, and it's definitely a strengthening thing because it's something that her and I can do together as like a relationship like activity. Especially since pretty
Mhm.
much anytime I make anything, I'm always like, Jackie, please listen to this and tell me what's bad about it. And in terms of collaborating with other people, I wouldn't really say it's strengthened or weakened any other relationships. It's more of just been like affirming of like people I'm friends with. It's like, hell yeah, let's do this thing together. And then when we do it, it's like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think a collab has ever led to me being closer with anyone or me thinking less of anyone or hopefully anyone thinking less of me. But it's definitely been definitely just like a nice opportunity to, jam something out with friends and you know, get some friendly collaboration going on. It's always just satisfying to the friendship heart.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to bounce off Aaron really quick on what she said about always wanting to show me the music that she's made. Like, I feel the same way with my music. Like, I always need her to hear anything to the point where, like, I'll show her work in progress songs, and she's basically like my litmus test for like if something is worth the effort to finish. Like just a little while ago, I was like trying a new thing, and I like sent her the song, and we listened to like the intro together, and she was like, "Eh," and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna scrap it."
Ouch.
I'm really glad that she can be my filter since my output is so high.
I always feel so bad though cuz I don't want to
No,
devalue your hard work.
you never do. I genuinely really appreciate that. I don't have like I don't always have you just saying, yeah, it sounds good, babe, even if it definitely doesn't.
Yeah, it's good to have a critical lens with which to sort of filter things through as well.
Yeah, it makes you complimenting my music feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we'll round this out. We'll start with Jackie at the end. Um, what would you like to tell musicians who might hear this who are just starting out today? Like, if someone is listening to this and they're like, "Yeah, I want to be a musician now. You've inspired me." What do you want to tell that person?
More than anything else, just start. Whether that means like just picking up an instrument or just opening a DAW and starting to write something. Just start now. I started writing in mid 2016, and a little over 4 years later, I could have never imagined how far I would have come in that time. Looking back, like I hope this doesn't sound arrogant. I just mean like I've written so much and improved so much since I started writing music in Guitar Pro. And like now I'm using realistic VSTs and my music streams on Spotify. I hear a lot of people say that they love to get into music, but they feel like it would just take so long to make anything good, and it's just so daunting and overwhelming. And I get that, and that's how I felt before I started. But like, I wrote one of my best songs months into writing, and just that makes me feel like anything is possible. Really, don't be so hard on yourself. Do it for fun, not with the goal of making a career out of it. You'll progress faster than you think. Just treat it like a hobby, and you'll get better over time. You know, no one's a master basket weaver with their first basket.
Yeah, I just want to bounce off of the do it for fun and don't do it to like expect anything to come out of it. I have a bad habit of making covers that I'm like, yo, this is sick. I'm really proud of this. I'm just not releasing it by accident. Like I'm not holding it back or anything. I just keep forgetting to. I just listen to it on my own. Like when I'm making music, when I make my covers, I don't do them for any other reason than just because I want to. Like all of the music I release is always made for free. I just make it because I want to listen to a chiptune version of whatever song I'm feeling at the time.
Hmm.
Hell yeah.
And I to what you said about you listen to your own music just without releasing it, I think that's a really important thing that I think more people should hear from artists. Like if if the music you're making isn't something you want to listen to in your own time, then what is the point? Like, of course I listen to my own music. I make it because I want to make music that I enjoy. So, just make stuff that you want to listen to and it'll work out.
And
Absolutely.
also, it's okay to be proud of the music that you're making. Like, if you're listening to the music you're making, you're like, hell yeah, this friggin' slaps. Yeah, good. Like, get that energy, use it to fuel more stuff. Like, that's awesome. You don't need to be afraid to be proud of your music as well.
Yeah, go out and make some shit, and you'll get good. Sucking at something is the first step to being sort of good at something. Quote the great philosopher Jake the Dog.
Wise words.
Yes.
Yo, I know we skipped it, but can we do the alternate question 9?
Sure. So, who's someone that each of you wishes that you could collaborate with?
I hear
You can't choose someone you've already collaborated with.
Damn it! I was gonna make a joke about Aeon Bridge. God, now I actually have to think. I want to collaborate with Eva of Thousand Sun Sky. That girl is so goddamn talented. The music she puts out is so good. Like I want to do a song that has her on it, or like I want to feature on a song for her because she's incredible, and I hope she can get her tech situation sorted out so that she can start making music again. Because she was definitely one of the other big inspirations for me with starting to get into my own stuff was seeing someone like her in the community like just absolutely blow up in terms of her skill and her production. It was just crazy.
She is an absolute joy to work with and absolutely a musical genius.
Have you worked with her?
Yeah,
Jackie's solo is
I
like on half of her songs.
I have solos on
Oh.
I would say like at least a quarter of her music. But I the one of the closing songs of her first album, An Infinitesimal Multiverse. There's a song called Reclaimers on there, which I co-wrote with her. We like sat in a Discord call and passed riffs back and forth and created this like amalgamation of progressive death metal and like Flesh God Apocalypse, and I ripped some of my best solos on that song. It was an absolute blast. She really brings out the best in my songwriting capabilities.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, then who would you like to collaborate with that you haven't already?
Above all else, Jackie Vincent. He is a solo guitarist now. He used to be the guitarist of Falling in Reverse, but he has done nothing but better things since he left that band. I really want to get him on a song of mine so bad. I just cannot afford a session with him with my current income.
Yeah, I hear that. Well, thank you both for joining me. Are there any last words that you want to say before we wrap up? Anything you want to plug or anything like that?
Yeah. First, I want to say thank you for having us. It was really cool to get to talk about this for such a cool cause. And second of all, you can check out my fiance's music at areneternal.bandcamp.com. Aren is spelled A-R-E-N.
All of my music's free because I just don't care about making money off of it. I just want to make cool chiptune covers. Also, go to the Aeon Bridge Bandcamp. But even more importantly than the Aeon Bridge Bandcamp, go to the Aeon Bridge Patreon because Jackie makes a ton of covers and stuff. Like, she releases stuff on there for free every month. And, you know, she's awesome. You should support.
Can you call it free if you need
if
to
you have to pay for it? Yeah, well, you know what I mean.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
That's very sweet. You guys are plugging each other's stuff.
Also, donate to Notes for Notes because Notes good.
Notes good. We're making notes for notes, and that means you got to donate those notes for notes.
Yeah, I'm guessing you've got a donation link on the screen or in your chat.
It will be in chat. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna donate to that right after this interview is over.
Hell yeah.
Fun.
All right, that will be it for us then. Thank you both for sharing your time with me and sharing your musical experiences, your influences, what drives you, everything like that. It's been a joy. Stay rad.
Thanks for having us. Trans rights.
Trans rights. Hell yeah.